I'm a policy officer with Biosecurity SA, and I'm looking to find better ways to reduce impacts of established feral pest animals. And so my talk's really a call to the researchers and students out there, and anyone else you know that may wish to consider projects that meet the specific needs of pest management. So some of our pest animals have got away from us despite many efforts by many to control them over the years. And so we need new tools, additional tools to help fight this battle. So some of the pest animals that I've been working on from a policy perspective include feral goats, rabbits, feral deer, pigs. There are many others, foxes, rabbits, etc. So together, it's known that they have really great impacts on particularly agriculture. A study some years ago suggested that established pests have an impact of about $740 million a year, and it's likely to be more than that on the environment. But more recently, another study that's been done by Biosecurity SA and Flinders Uni has suggested that just the herbivores alone are having an impact of more than $1 billion a year. So it's likely to be very significant. Now, for many of the established pest animals, there is a legal obligation for landholders to control these pests, particularly for feral goats, foxes, deer, wild dogs, and rabbits. So we do have a bunch of control tools that we use to control them. Traditional ones include traps, shooting. I wish I've got this here. Oops, let's go back. Does that go? Yeah, aerial control for landscape-wide control. Some feral goats are often mustered in the rangeland areas, baiting of different things, and now we have some biological control such as viruses for rabbits, which a colleague of mine is going to talk about next, John Kovaliski. So, yeah, it's important that we have a range of these tools available to us and that we use multiple ones, and some of them are not available in some areas. For example, in peri-urban areas, we might not be able to use firearms for various reasons. So we need to boost our toolkit, really. And some tools haven't changed for many decades. There you can see this is the dog fence back in the day. That's John just spoke about. And yeah, rabbits were shot back in the day. They still are. So just to put some of this into perspective, Biosecurity SA is doing policy review of established pest animals because many of their populations and their impacts have been increasing. And some of the policies that have been done in the past have not been, their objectives have not been met. And also there's more concern in the public about pest animals and their impacts, and we want to make sure that the benefits for investment are maximised for pest management. And so part of that is to assess the control tools that are available and to look at what are the real needs for the future. And some of them definitely involve more science around improving targets for control. How much do we have to control to reduce populations? How do we better engage the community? What are some ways to do that? And other new control tools. So there are some challenges today. A lot of the land use has changed. People are moving to smaller properties, maybe peri-urban areas. They may be absent from the land, or they may not be farming it for their own income or for primary production. Some people don't have the ability to control feral animals, like they might not have firearms licenses or the tools or the ability or the willingness to control them despite it being their obligation. And also there's some of the pests we don't have many tools for. For example, feral deer. Pretty much it's just shooting and trapping. And so if landholders don't have the ability to do that, they're a bit stuck. And for some, there's no economic incentive to control. I've got a photo there of a rabbit eating some money. So sometimes, unless the animal is literally, you know, you can see the dollars disappearing because of a feral animal, then there's no incentives. Okay, so science is offering some new solutions that reduce the time and cost to do feral animal control. And these include, as I said before, the virus. This is a virus for rabbits that John will talk about, but improvements in baits. This is actually for pigs. This is a pig hopper, which is to deliver toxins to feral pigs. There's a canid pest ejector, which is a delivery mechanism to deliver toxins to foxes and wild dogs. Infrared to detect animals from the air as well. So definitely we're going in this direction, but I'm calling that we need more of them. All right, so the problem is that despite these pest animals are still getting away from us. So I want to talk very briefly about something that John mentioned, which is a deer aggregator, or a goat or deer aggregator that Biosecurity SA is going to be trialling this year for the next couple of years. So this is a feeder for goats or deer. It's specific to those, and it works on a mechanism where a deer or goat can activate a treadle that opens a lid to allow access to feed. And on top of the treadle is a mesh plate that allows pointy-footed animals to press down and activate the treadle, whereas macropods with big flat feet like this sit on top of the mesh and can't activate the treadle. So this is a really neat design, and we're going to be trialling that to improve those, improve the design of it. And so it allows deer and goats to be aggregated to an area for more effective control. So it might draw them out of dense bush, or it might draw them away from your lucerne crops, or and in the future it may be used for delivering things like fertility control, or even into the future possibly delivery of toxins like they do for pigs. But that's not the initial purpose of the trial at the moment. Social science is another area that we really need improvements in. It's critical to understanding why some landholders don't control pests when they're required to. And so I've got here, how do we convince people to cull pests? One of the ways is to get coordinators to target individuals in real priority areas. So here I've got a map of properties. It's actually near the Coorong. We've probably got about 20 kilometres by 20 kilometres, and all the properties with colour on them are people that have said yes to a particular control program for aerial control of deer. So you can see the benefit of having everybody, all neighbours together involved in a project of landscape control, as opposed to just a mosaic of individuals that have sort of said, yeah, I'll do it, no, I won't, because you're not going to get so many properties where pests can be harboured. So that's a really, really valuable way to get people involved. It might involve a lot of cups of tea with those particular people that you need to target. But ultimately, we want farmers convincing other farmers to cull pests and to do this sort of thing, because government people are great, but when they've gone as a driver, you really want that legacy to continue in the community. So we need ways to know how to do that, and we need to be able to give the community advice and support to get the ball rolling on these things. And one of the ways to do that is to promote success stories that might appeal to different values of different people. One story, for example, was about rabbits in the Flinders, where a whole lot of farmers and landholders got together. They got contractors to warren rip over a large landscape area, and I think it was run by the Northern York NRM board. But you know, a year or so later, when they went back to check, there were very few rabbits around. So it was that landscape-wide control that everybody got involved with. It was really successful. Another thing that can really help people get on board are maps showing distribution abundance, saying, look, they're spreading, or they're here, or but even more valuable are maps of economic impacts of those pests, and that's something that we're aiming towards into the future. So there's actually a study that was started last year by Adelaide University, Department of Environment, Water and PIRSA, looking at deer diets across South Australia, and it looked at stomach samples of culled deer and used DNA genomics to work out what they were eating. And across the Fleurieu, you can see a whole range of different plant species that the deer were eating. This is really preliminary data, by the way. That can really be it can really convince people, give them information to get them really inspired to do control, or for us to really target where the greatest impacts are. And sometimes it's completely different from what people's perceptions are. Some people say, oh, they're just eating the crops, or they're just eating the orchids, or this sort of information can really get them excited. So ultimately, we hope to be able to use this information to produce economic value maps to increase that awareness. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is that we want to know a little bit more about surveillance systems as well. So traditional ways of surveillance include things like trail cameras, and there's apps that, such as the one that FeralScan does. So surveillance systems are really good at improving awareness and interest. We don't just want to use them to count pests, which is probably the more traditional reason they're used, but they can also be used to directly inform particular culling programs and to encourage neighbours to be involved. So I know there's some neighbours in one area that are particularly interested in deer or pigs, and they'd like, you know, an app which only they can see, and when one person sees something, they put it on the app and their neighbours can see it, and then someone can go out and check if that animal has gone onto their property and cull it quickly. And by getting all these people involved together, it can be really powerful. You can get quick detections and quick responses. So improvements in surveillance systems are also really useful. Yeah, I guess other things that people are using are like, there's Facebook groups for wild dogs across Australia as well. So they're already being used by people. Yeah, okay. So I'm pretty much on time. This is my last talk, my last slide. So if you have any good ideas about new tools, surveillance systems, or ways to engage the community to do, you know, obligated control that they need to, please come and talk to us so we can have fewer of these and more of these, and some other environmental things as well. So thank you. Yeah.